And then after that, I bought a bike. And for some reason in my head, I was like, if I can get through the marathon, I know I can do 112 miles on the bike, no problem, and I can swim. Of course, you learn really quickly that cycling fitness is, of course, different than just riding your bike around town.
You are listening to the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast with your host, Eric Logan. No Gimmicks, Just Sweat is dedicated to hearing the journeys and unique stories behind an athlete's training and what drives them. Get inspired to own your life and make the impossible possible. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Also, please take a few seconds to rate the show and drop me a review. Now, let's get started with the show.
Hello and welcome to this episode of No Gimmicks, Just Sweat. And today we welcome Chelsea Wolfe to the show. Chelsea, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming on the show. So, as with every show, we kind of start with a warm-up, just some icebreaker questions so the listeners can kind of get to know you better. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, so let's go. First question, morning training or evening training?
Evening, 100%.
No mornings?
No, I need too much coffee to get going.
All right, cardio training or strength training?
Cardio every day.
All right, run on the treadmill or run outside?
Outside to enjoy the beautiful scenery.
Oh, yeah, and that fresh air? Yeah, I don't blame you. All right, open water swim or swim in the pool?
Swimming in the pool. I love staring at that black line.
All right, ride inside with or without Zwift?
With Zwift. I like the video game aspect of it. I like to get to new levels and pretend I'm actually racing other people.
Nice. All right, favorite segment in a triathlon? Swim, bike, or run?
Swimming.
All right, favorite race distance? Sprint, Olympic, or long course?
The longer the better. So long course, 70.3 or full Ironman.
Oh, okay. All right, first thing you do after a race?
Get a beer.
What kind of beer?
Any good IPA.
Okay. All right, dream race to participate in?
Kona World Championships this October.
Yeah, that's right. Just go ahead and announce it.
I qualified for Kona and I am beyond ecstatic.
I bet you are. We'll talk about that. All right, so if you can go on a run, a bike ride, or train with any celebrity or athlete, who would it be and why?
I would train with Michael Phelps.
Okay.
Kind of taking it off the triathlon for a little bit, but being a competitive swimmer background, I'd love to hear his knowledge and his experience. And, it's kind of always a dream when your idols are swimming with you.
Okay. All right, last question. Dream location anywhere in the world you would love to go for a bike ride or run or swim?
So I really want to go to the Netherlands.
Okay.
Supposed to be the bike capital of the world and the safest place in the world to bike. So I would love to cycle there.
Nice. So Chelsea, tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you become, and I always kind of word it as, think of yourself as being a superhero. What is your origin story? How did you become the athlete that you are today?
Awesome. So the origin is simple. It's my grandpa. He's the reason I do everything I do. I grew up living with my grandparents.
Okay.
And they made sure I was busy all the time. So I couldn't get into any trouble. So I swam from the age of 5. They had put me in actually swim lessons at 3. By the age of 5, they asked me to join a swim team. I was decently good for a 5-year-old, still not something you probably want to watch on TV. And then I started swimming 4 days a week and then 5 days a week until I was in junior high, and I swam before and after school, going into high school, which really my grandpa's whole point was he didn't want didn't want me to have to pay for college, so it worked. I got a scholarship to swim
Okay.
for a Division II school in Wheeling, West Virginia.
Okay.
And once I graduated college and was done competitive swimming, I wanted to break, but you kind of lose your identity when you quit a sport you've been doing since you were 3 years old. So after that, I did some bodybuilding. I did some CrossFit, kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And in the back of my head, I had a college teammate who was one of my competitors, but he was a man, and he told me he was going to do an Ironman. He wanted to. And I was like, well, man, if that guy can do it, then I can do an Ironman. So then that caused me to look up what even is an Ironman.
Mm-hmm.
So I had some friends do triathlons, but I was never into it. I had a little mountain bike when I grew up, and swimmers don't really love running. So I decided then that I was going to sign up for a half marathon and see if I could get to a marathon, because that was the scariest part for me.
Okay.
Can you get through 26 miles? And I did a half marathon, and I thought there's no way I can do a full marathon. But once you do one, you're like, well, I want to do another one. And then you're like, okay, I think I could do 26 miles. It's going to hurt, but I can do it. And then after that, I bought a bike. And for some reason in my head, I was like, if I can get through the marathon, I know I can do 112 miles on the bike, no problem, and I can swim. Of course, you learn really quickly that cycling fitness is, of course, different than just riding your bike around town. And, unfortunately, I'm always overconfident. I'm always very confident in my swim. So most triathletes don't love to hear that. So then I went a little crazy, and I did one Olympic triathlon, but the swim was canceled. And then my first true full triathlon was Ironman Florida in 2017. So I went straight to the full distance because I thought that I would have the same thing with the half marathon. If I did a half Ironman, I'd be like, oh man, I'm not going to like this. I'll never do it. You'll know the pain of the red line, and you won't want to do the full. So I convinced my now husband to do it with me, and our first triathlon together and our first Ironman was the same race.
Oh, that's so sweet. Well, I've been following you for a while now, and just to hear that, you started as a swimmer, you prefer swimming, I wouldn't have thought that looking at your Instagram account, because you're always on the bike.
Yes. Cycling has become my passion, and especially living in Arizona and coming from somewhere where there's not great cycling, especially safety-wise. West Virginia doesn't have bike lanes. There's beautiful places to cycle and lots of hills. But coming out here, and there's wide shoulders, and you can't go a mile without seeing a cyclist out on the roads. I think it just really what makes you want to get outside and do it more.
So let's talk about training. And you're over in Arizona. So how is training over there? Because Arizona is known to be very hot.
So I'm also not a morning person because I work for a pharmaceutical company, and it's based out of Iceland. So a lot of my meetings start at 5 or 6 a.m.
Ah, okay.
So I'm begrudgingly on meetings.
Okay.
So I end up having to work out in the heat of the day.
Ooh.
Which most of the time is okay, because Arizona is beautiful from October till March, if you're lucky.
Okay.
And then you have 3 months of insane heat. So I try to push all my runs to the weekend that are my long runs early in the morning, or I try to go out when it's the coolest, because there is a problem with Arizona where once it gets up to 100, it doesn't cool down. So you have to wait until daybreak to get any sort of relief.
Wow. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, especially if you're running on blacktop or anything like that, you'll feel the heat radiating through your shoes.
Wow. So I guess us athletes over on the East Coast and Georgia and stuff, we need to stop complaining about humidity.
I will say coming from the East Coast, humidity is awful.
Yes.
So
Yes.
the dry heat is much better, in my opinion. I'd rather take 100 and dry heat than 80 and 60% humidity any day.
So, what does a week of training, for you look like? A Monday, a Sunday through Saturday week of training.
So my long runs are always on Sunday, typically. Right now, because I'm training for a full distance, I'm doing about 16 hours of training a week, and it'll increase a little bit because eventually I'll need to be in the saddle for at least 6-7 hours on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
Usually Mondays are a recovery day for me, which it's either a complete rest day or I get in the pool and do a long recovery swim where I don't worry about pace. I don't worry about anything specifically. I just kind of enjoy the water and get some yards in.
Okay.
Tuesdays, I usually do some sort of indoor trainer with some intervals, and then some strength training. Wednesdays, I do a middle distance run with usually some sort of intervals right now, just building the volume a little bit. And then usually another swim, and that will have more pace work, about 400 to 4,500 yards. Then Thursdays are another bike session. That one is either a long, steady ride outside, like 2.5 hours, and then another lift and maybe some yoga to help loosen everything up after working yourself hard all week. Fridays are a medium recovery day, setting myself up for the big weekend. So I'll usually do like an easy 30-minute run, and I'll do that on the treadmill just because I can get some air conditioning in. And then another longer swim where it's more just focusing on the distance and trying to be a little bit slower than race pace.
Okay.
And then Saturdays is the long ride day. So I'm up to about 80 miles now, and
Nice.
We'll creep up to about 120 get over the mileage of the race, and then it'll be race day.
Nice. Do you train with a trainer, coach, or you self-train, or is there a particular training plan that you follow?
So my first Ironman ever, I self-trained, and then I found my coach who I've been with since 2018. His name's Brian Sherlock, and he's out of West Virginia. He's awesome. I recommend him to everyone.
Yeah.
We just have a really he's a good personal relationship coach. So he knows like what motivates me, what my mental weaknesses are, and helps me work on those. So.
Okay. So, how many triathlons have you done over the years?
So I've done 2 full Ironman.
Okay.
I was supposed to do several when COVID happened, and that didn't happen.
Okay.
And then I have done 7 70.3s, and I will have 2 fulls this year.
Okay. So you've pretty much Ironman based events, not any local, triathlon events?
I've done a few local. Since I moved to Arizona, I've done 2 local ones. West Virginia, there wasn't really any, so I've had to go to other states to do things. So if I'm doing that, I typically go for the big races.
Okay. That's a small way to do. If you're going to go big.
Yes.
So, let's kind of go back a couple of years to 2020, the year of the pandemic, the year nobody wants to really talk about. How did that affect you with no races? How did that affect your training? How did that affect you, or just your attitude and your mood as far as racing goes?
So I think it actually benefited me. I know a lot of people, blame everything on the pandemic, but I really love training. So for me, a year of taking the pressure off of trying to get a best time in the race and, worrying about the travel to get to a race, I just focused on my training and I loved it. The only problem was obviously I couldn't get in a pool because pools were closed.
Right.
But, it got me out more time with my friends on the bike, more time to run, get out in nature and not have to worry about everything else going on, and having a little bit more freedom because there weren't any races coming up. So it kind of let me reset, make sure I still love the sport, and then I want to continue doing it.
Okay. And obviously you want to continue doing it because you just qualified for Kona.
Yes.
So let's hear the story that kind of build up that led to that qualification.
So my whole goal was I signed up for this race in 2019 to do it in 2020. Of course, Hawaii was, shut down forever. So I didn't end up getting to do it till this year. And my goal was to do that one and then Ironman Arizona so that I'd have 2 chances to qualify for Kona, because 70.3 Hawaii is the only half you can qualify for the full World Championships. And plus you are in the famous Kona for that. So, my whole goal for that race was actually to get on the podium. I feel like I was in some of the best shape of my life. I did have a few setbacks with traveling for work, because even if you plan the best ever, there's always something that goes a little bit askew. Then, as you probably saw, I made the mistake of not wearing socks on the run. And I went from
yes, I did see that.
3rd place to 7th. Well, I went from 5th place to 7th place. So I dropped 2 spots. I had a really bad run, but there was a low point where I really wanted to quit. And I just was thinking about my grandpa and like how disappointed he would be if I quit.
Right.
Because I flew all the way there. So then it was kind of cool. I went to roll down kind of expecting maybe I get a 70.3 slot for Worlds, because a lot of people have already qualified at this point. And roll downs were pretty awesome. They go through that race, they roll through the Kona World spots first for the full, and then they roll down for the 70.3. So I actually could have gotten both slots, but I really don't want to do St. George. So I was there and people just leave, and it's really sad. They get their awards, and I know the 1st place girl, the 3rd and the 4th place girl already had spots. So 2nd place took it, and there happened to be one other spot, and the 5th and 6th place girls didn't show up to awards. So I got the roll down spot, which was kind of those things. You have a bad race, and it was the silver lining of getting to go.
Yep.
So it was bittersweet. I really wanted to get on the podium to get it, but I get to go to Kona, and there were a couple of the other age groups, it rolled down to like 50 or 60th place. So there's always going to be people there that like weren't the top 2 in their age group. So that made me like, there's going to be people out there that you're not always the most elite to be there, but I earned a spot because I showed up.
Right. And you stayed.
Yeah.
So would you say that's your proudest moment as an athlete?
That's a hard one. It was a very just bittersweet feeling. You're having a bad day and you qualify, but probably my most proud moment is last year in March, I did 70.3 challenge Miami.
Okay.
And I also got 7th, which is kind of funny. But I broke 5 hours. I went 4:52. I had the best bike of my life, a really great run. And when I crossed the finish line, it was one of those moments where you just realize that all your hard work paid off, and you're in pain, but it doesn't even matter anymore because you watch that time just crush. You feel good the whole time. You're passing people. It was just a really great race.
Nice. It's good to hear. All right. So that was your proudest moment. What is your worst moment or biggest mistake? Would it be taking those socks?
Definitely taking those socks off. Just trying to shave a few seconds. Sometimes if it's going to save you a few minutes, yeah, do it. But if it's going to just save you seconds, I could have put socks on quicker than I laid in the grass trying to figure out what to do.
All right. So let's kind of get specific. So what's your go-to running shoe?
So right now I've had some issues in the past. So I wore Brooks Adrenaline forever. And then I started getting some issues because they're not really made for going fast. They're a great trainer, but they're heavy. So that's where I started kind of switching around. Now I run in Ultra Provisions.
Okay.
They're on like a neutral shoe with a little bit of stability. They're super light and I don't get black toenails. So that's like the crucial part for me.
Okay. Yeah, nobody wants black toenails.
No.
All right. So what bike do you use for your triathlon?
I have a 2017 Live Advanced Eval Pro. So it's Giant's women's specific triathlon bikes.
Okay. Is there any other piece of gear that you just have to have that you can't live without?
I can't live without my power meter. That's probably my favorite piece of gear that I have. I love knowing the power and being able to monitor versus heart rate and pace alone.
Okay. So what type of power meter do you have?
I have the Garmin Vector 3 dual power pedals.
Okay. Nice. That's actually a good one. Yeah, that's nice. All right. So how do you fuel before, during, and after a race?
So I'm pretty superstitious in what I eat before a race. I have like 2 rotating meals. I love Kodiak Power muffins that are microwavable. They're so chocolate. They're so good.
Yeah, who doesn't love those things?
They're so good. So I usually eat 2 of those and either some berries or a banana.
Okay.
Or like in Hawaii, I didn't pack them, but I'll also eat a bagel with usually like some jelly. And then also fruit and berries, some sort of something like that. But it's either a bagel or my Kodiak cakes if I have them.
Okay.
During the race, I use Scratch Super Fuel for the bike. I don't really take anything on the swim. I'll slug some sort of electrolyte usually in between the swim and the bike. And going back about 30 minutes before the race, I'm always sipping on some sort of electrolyte. But during the bike, I do usually 2, for a 70.3, I'll do 2 bottles of Scratch Super Fuel. I also Scratch has recipes on their website for like homemade rice cakes.
Okay.
And I recommend those, but instead of using coconut oil, I use a little bit of cream cheese. It's my pro tip.
Okay.
So maybe just not for a super hot race, but usually I think it's fine. But they're really easy on your stomach. Add some fruit in them. They're super good. And then on the run, I do Huma gels.
Okay.
And depending the day and the race, I usually I sip on water, Gatorade that's on the course. I don't carry a handheld. But in Hawaii, it was super hot and all I wanted was Coke. So one of those things, I never thought I liked Coke until I started doing triathlon. And then you realize, oh man, when you're running and it's hot, there's nothing better.
Okay. So what are some things that keep you going daily?
It's still going back to my grandpa. So my grandpa passed away in Christmas. So my kind of motto is to make him proud.
Okay.
Because he never missed a swim meet in my entire life.
Yeah.
So he always said before every race, kick like hell.
Okay.
So every day when I'm riding and something is painful, I kind of use that mantra. Even if you're cycling or swimming, or running, it can kind of reinforce positive things in your mind.
Okay. So I can see that on a shirt for you. Kick like hell.
Yes.
All right. So what would be your advice to someone who is interested in being a triathlete or just getting out and running or bike riding, swimming or anything, but they feel that they're at a point in life that it's just too late for them? What would be your advice to them?
So one of my favorite swimmers is Dara Torres. She went to the Olympics at 42 and got a bronze medal. And she wrote a book called Age is Just a Number. And I like to live by that. I try not to think about how old I am. And I try to try something new, like every year, if something's scary. So my advice would be step out of your comfort zone, give it a try, and go slow and just enjoy it. There's no need to, everyone thinks you have to be fast to run. but we all started somewhere. And, you know, even when we were little and ran for the first time, we weren't going fast.
Right. Exactly. All right. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self if you can go back in time?
Oh, this is so many things, right? Definitely is to enjoy the process and don't let stress dictate you. So, I mean, I've been a athlete that's let stress get to me and races and meets, everything, you know, the mental aspect. You should go out there and just have fun. And if you just pretend you're having, because it hurts, we all know it hurts. But if you go out there and you are having fun and you're loving every moment of it, the pain is a little bit different.
Okay.
Also to get into triathlon earlier.
Well, you can get in it any time.
Yeah, you can. I just,
Anytime.
you know, you see those 20 to 24 age groups where no one's in it. And I'm like, man, I should have been in it then.
Well, that's true. You really, the younger age group, outside, once you get past the kids and you kind of get into like the 20 and, you know, the 20 to 24 and the 25 to 29, it's not that many people. It seems like when it gets into the mid 30s, 40s, and 50s, that's when it kind of gets crowded.
Exactly. And people just keep getting faster as they age. So, I mean, that's another thing. If you think it's too late, look at the times of these people, man. I think a 45-year-old woman won 70.3 Kona, and, you know, that's 15 years away from me, or 14. So there's so much time to get better.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at a recent race, there was a fellow duathlete, and he was 60, and he was gunning it on the run.
Isn't that crazy?
Right.
You know, and then you see people, there was an 80-year-old at the race, and that just inspires me all the time. You know,
Yeah.
I hope I'm still moving my body that much when I'm 80. Like, that's my goals, is to just be active my whole life.
Yes, that, you know, and I always enjoy talking to those older athletes because I'm like, I want to be you when I'm 80.
Exactly.
I want to be coming to this race. You know, I ain't trying to win anything or, you know, break any records or get a PR. I just want to start and finish.
Yes.
And then go home and soak.
Exactly. And I mean, you got to admit, they love telling their friends at their card games or whatever they're doing and during the week that what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I just did a triathlon.
Yeah. All right. So what's a non-triathlon or non-athletic fact about you that most people don't know?
I'm a Disney adult. I'm 32 years old. I've been to Disney World close to 50 times. I've been every year since I was born, and I go twice a year if I can. And it's my happy place.
Okay. So outside of Kona, what's next for you?
So that's the big question. I'm doing Ironman Arizona actually 6 weeks later.
Okay.
You know, depending on how my body holds up, my goal is to requalify for Kona next year.
Oh, okay. Cool. All right. Before I let you go, you got any last words for our listeners?
No, thanks for listening to me ramble. I appreciate it. And Eric, it's been great to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, again, thank you. You know, I appreciate you as well as all of the guests that come on the show because I love hearing your stories.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much.
All right. So, you know, before I let you go, how can people get in contact with you if they heard something here and they want to get some advice or they just want to connect with you? How can they do so?
So I'm on Instagram all the time. That's my, I guess that's also another non-triathlon hobby I like. I love Instagram.
Do you really?
So I'm on there as Chelsea_Shea with an extra A in the Chelsea, and message me anytime. I love meeting new people and talking to new people. And then there's also a contact me, which you could email me, get more information.
All right, Chelsea, again, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much, Eric.
All right, you have a good one.
You too.
All
Bye.
Right, bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast. We really appreciate everyone who tunes in each week. If you enjoyed today's show, please support us by subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember to tell your friends about the No Gimmicks, Just Sweat podcast, so we can continue to have awesome conversations with everyday athletes just like you. Until next time, have an amazing week.